So I was walking through this modern art gallery the other day in a shopping mall, and I usually don't stop at these places because I know that I'm just going to be very disappointed in what I see. But I decided to go inside this one, and true to my expectations, I was disappointed, but I couldn't help but notice why I was disappointed. Looking at this art, I mean, can we even consider it art? Like, it was a bunch of um, just canvases filled with high chroma colors and like rectangles and squares and triangles, and I usually pass by these things and just ignore it and just write it off as terrible modern pseudo art or whatever. But I really decided to go kind of dive into why I actually think it's horrible. And I thought a lot about it because I couldn't just wrap my head around, like, all right, it's bad, but what is so bad about it? And we can ignore the fact that they don't put any symbolic meaning to it. I think that although that's a very important part of art, art can be beautiful without having some sort of symbolism. Like, you could just see a painting of a boy in a field, and I guess, well, everything has symbolism, but it's very vague, and still we can appreciate the beauty of the painting. But in the case of modern art, there is abstract art, and it can get pretty complex. So complexity obviously isn't a problem either. But I think it all boils down to art is supposed to imitate nature, not go against it. And I think that's fundamentally what's wrong with our society and the way we live, disconnected from nature, and that includes, the city life, the architecture, the synthetic clothes we wear, and the fake lives we live. But in the case of art, I thought that it was very indicative of what we're going through as humanity. I couldn't help but realize how disconnected it was. Like, when we look at, for example, the square shape or the rectangle, nowhere in nature can we find these shapes. And I think that's super important. I don't think people realize that even architecture, old architecture like cathedrals, it's like, where would you find something that looks like a cathedral? But that's just simply not true. We can find many shapes like the dome in nature, and at the end of the day, a cathedral is an enhancement of nature. It doesn't go against it. It surely isn't part of nature, but it's definitely a asset to it. And I think if we treated all art that way, it would definitely be better. Because when we look at a square and a triangle, even, like, I guess a triangle, although triangles are kind of in nature, but let's just keep it at like the level of a square and a rectangle. um it's completely foreign to us. Like, the object is foreign to us. We don't see these things, and we can't associate to things that are foreign. Like, if aliens dropped and started showing us something that has nothing to do with us as a humanity and our nature and just our beings as a whole, I feel like we couldn't associate to it. And it's very similar to modern art. Now, I have yet to discover why we've gone this way. I just kind of guess it goes with, like, the decadence of society. The other thing I also wanted to point out in modern art is, throughout history, all art was either three-dimensional or was trying to imitate three-dimensionality. And with the modern art, like, we can take any example, it's all two-dimensional. It's all shapes, forms, colors. And I'm not saying all modern art is bad. Like, I've definitely seen pieces where, like, I guess it's aesthetically pleasing, but, like, overall, like, who are we lying to? Like, nobody admires that. Nobody admires a blue square on a purple background. And it just goes back to that we've kind of given up on trying to imitate nature and trying to imitate form and shape and value and contour. And we've just kind of went against our nature and went to this kind of transhumanism, whatever. It doesn't make any sense to me. Get any artist throughout history, there was always a goal of trying to imitate nature. And when I mean nature, I also include humans, because we are a part of nature, whether we like it or not. We might not be exactly like the natural world around us, but God created us to be one with nature. And so when we look at the history of all art ever, good or bad, in the ancient times, there was always a goal in mind to imitate what we saw and what we admired. Whether it's a painting of a wild horse in a cave, or it's, French classicism where value and contour are valued, we still made put great effort into imitating nature, because at the end of the day, the best we can do is imitate a perfect design. Like, we can't really invent anything that would be better than nature. At least I think we can't. We can definitely enhance it, and we can definitely make stuff beautiful. It kind of goes like, the only thing more beautiful than a forest and a creek going through it is like a beautiful little cottage with a stone pathway leading up to it. Like, that's what I mean. Like, we can definitely enhance what's already there, but going completely against it confirms the fact that we as humans are trying to go against our nature. And we can see this, like I said, in cities where trees are constantly being cut down, and where architecture is just looking more and more artificial. Now, by artificial, I mean it's just becoming more and more boxes, no columns, no domes, no, artistic kind of contouring or anything. It's just minimalism, which I talked a little bit about in my previous video. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I really feel like this is a huge problem in art and just in life general, that we've kind of rejected who we are as a people. And it goes with this a whole AI thing, where we're too lazy to even, ask ourselves anything or figure something out ourselves. And because it's easier to just ask ChatGPT, whereas, before, like, I'm not even talking about researching books. I'm just like, nobody even searches Google anymore. They just go to ChatGPT. And this whole trying to make our life easier and trying to, simplify everything in the name of efficiency, like capitalist efficiency, is, I think, also a reason why our art is getting worse. Like, you had to actually put in time to make great art. Like, Michelangelo put in, like, what, 3 years to make David? Like, who's putting 3 years in anything right now? Like, we can't put in 3 hours to work on a single project without scrolling our phones. And so we should become the people where we admire of the past, because obviously this world isn't going to get any better on its own, but I think that we don't necessarily need to make classical art. Like, we don't have to stick to what was already painted and what was already made. But I think there's a certain blueprint that was laid out for us, and it's our job to put our authentic touch, but definitely not change the whole blueprint. Like, I think, oh my god, I think this video stuff is super hard. Anyways, this modern art thing is never going to catch on, in my opinion. That's the reason why, because it's a foreign object to us. We're never gonna admire it, and art should be something that's admired. It should be something that invokes certain emotions within us. Nobody's getting any emotions when they look at a purple square or a black rectangle. Like, we should start creating things that are beautiful to us and that relate, but not necessarily even relate, just something that means something to us. And people will definitely admire that more than what we're creating now. And I also, most people aren't even creating anything. Like, I'm making this channel primarily for artists, but many of you might not be artists, and you don't necessarily have to be an artist to create beautiful things. You can be just whatever your field is. you can do the best you can. If you're an architect, an engineer, even like a teacher, you can leave something that's beautiful behind you, whether it's teaching kids something or I don't know, you figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out in art, and I think I'm doing well, but there's no other way than to try. And we should definitely try harder because we haven't had any beautiful art in like a long time now. Of course, there are beautiful artists and beautiful artists. Well, I mean, there is beautiful art in our generation, but considering how many people there are and how many artists are now, I just feel like we're kind of not even trying as a whole. Most of us are just kind of cruising through life, doing the bare minimum, trying to living this disconnected life from nature, from God, from our purpose. Like, we don't have to follow these rules that the ancients followed. Like, although I think it's super cool to study stuff like the Fibonacci spiral or the Fibonacci sequence, something like that like shells kind of thing. I think that's super cool. I think we should put that more in art and more naturalistic designs, more nature. Less saturated colors, more shapes that you would find in nature, more flowing subjects, and I think you have to figure out the rest. I've been going on so many tangents this video that I kind of forgot what the whole point was, but what I wanted to say was appeal to nature, be inspired by God, and create beautiful art.